Okay, it's being recorded.
Yep. I guess you can begin whenever you're ready, and then. Yep.
Okay. Sounds good.
I like a senior research scientist. Amazon.
Oh God, I killed a lot of base cells today.
Yep. No, I couldn't sleep for it like at least 1 or 2 nights before I said yes. I was like, okay, do I do it or
guess
do I?
someone is talking in the
Long
chat.
time commitment.
Let me see.
Can everybody if you are in a noisy environment, can you just mute your mic unless you have a question?
Please, yeah, that will be helpful. Okay, I guess I can start. So first, I want to say thank you for Purdue University Industrial Engineering Department inviting me to basically talk about my own experience at Amazon. Yeah, very fortunate to be here talking about my experience. Hopefully, it is helpful. And I do want to have this session to be more interactive, so I'll save a good amount of time at the end so we can just talk. I see most of you are master PhD student, which I was one of them. In a not very long time ago. I graduated in 2018, so it's about 4 years ago. So I was in the same situation you all. So I can still feel the type of challenges and how you say, and the hope during that period of time. So okay, I'll start. My name is Huangfu. I normally introduce myself. Don't do something wrong. The same pronunciation with the wrong thing. That helps people remember me. I use that a lot. So I'm currently serving as a senior research scientist at Amazon, a corporate projects team. So sorry that I cannot talk about my job today since it's confidential information, but I'll share my general experience at Amazon for this talk and open for any questions at the end. Currently, I'm primarily located in Seattle area. I have office in Seattle. But the other part of my team is in Boston area, North Reading, Massachusetts. So I travel there quite often, I would say. I've been there like 3 times in the last 2 months, I guess. Okay, so let's start. Let me start by sharing my experience at Amazon. That I've been in Amazon for 3 years, so I did get a taste of it, I guess. Not fully understand, but I get a taste of it. So let me go to my next slide. And by the way, sorry about the slides. It was very bare bone, basic. I just moved the talking points. That reminds me. I want to start when I first joined Amazon. It was a great talent you can see across the company that you can learn from. I think that's the first impression I got. Like it's a great pool of talents that knows their domain very well and very easy to approach as well. So within Amazon, we have this org chart. You can basically see every single one from the CEO to everyone. So you can actually just send them messages and reach out to schedule a talk. And I will say, with my experience, most of the time they are very open to a discussion, just the willingness to learn what you are doing, what I'm doing. Just see what we can learn from each other. That was actually a great start when I was just started. Was seeing that as a fantastic place to begin with. So that's that part. I really like to highlight that you're really working with a great team, with great people that really make the days very, meaningful. Put it that way. And second, I want to talk about, the Seattle area. I know the other area I may not have a good understanding, which I appreciate a lot is actually in Seattle area, Amazon's a big presence, right? There's a lot of buildings. We're talking about, I don't know, 40, 50 buildings in the area. So it's a lot of people. The good thing is you actually get access to all of the buildings if you're working in a corporate team. So I can just go to any building and just either that's to meet people or it's to just work in a different area, especially after COVID, most people become remote. I actually go to office because there's no one there, so it's actually pretty nice. So right now I'm in a set office space. I just booked the conference room and start from there. So I don't really have a desk. I do if I want, but I really don't have a desk. If that makes sense. Anyway, okay. Up next, so I want to talk some special things I learned after I joined Amazon, which I wouldn't expect at the beginning. As very first, there's no PowerPoint. Like period. There's no PowerPoint in our daily workflow. So I've been in Amazon 3 years. I haven't been working in even single one PowerPoint as part of my work. The only chance we will use a PowerPoint is to do some sort of presentation to like external parties like this one, or other occasions like conference presentation, something like that. Internal communication are all written technical report. If you think about that, some of them like 1 page long, some of them 6 page long. So that's kind of the standard communication. Yeah. And by the way, if you have any questions you wanted me to pause, you want to just ask, please, right? This is more for me to share, and you answer any questions you have that you want to know, right? Because when I was a student, I have no idea what those things are like. I would love to just learn what's out there. Right? So that's the PowerPoint part, which is very surprisingly, which is also very good. And like one of the philosophy behind it is, if you cannot write your minds down, we cannot communicate effectively, right? So it's very common when you enter an Amazon meeting, if it is 30 minutes or an hour meeting, you went there. The first thing is the host will share a document, which is the purpose of this meeting, and everyone will be in silent mode to read the doc for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever is needed to finish reading, and then start discussion, right? So it's very effective, and that does spend a lot of time writing documents, right? So that's something I want to point out, because when I was PhD or master's student, I was kind of deciding between industry and academia, right? So I think I'm doing okay in the academia path, but I was like, do I have to write proposals every single day in my life? I feel hesitate, put it that way. But when you actually get into work, actually you're still writing papers every day. It's a different type of paper, but you're still writing. It's required. It's a very needed skill, actually. Writing a good document, concise, clear. That's important, actually. So if you're just trying to escape from writing, deciding between industry and academia, like I was thinking at the beginning, early on in my career, that's not the case. So that's not a decision point. Don't put it as a decision point, put it that way. And then I want to share some of the terms that I learned. Maybe similar to your experience, maybe not. So for example, some of the terms I learned, for example, work backwards, right? Work backwards is really coming from the kind of the very fundamental value that Amazon values, is working from the customer. What exactly is the customer need? We're working from there, and then figure out what do we need to do to fulfill that, to, let's say, delight the customer. Right? I think that's kind of very fundamental. When we talk about thinking about research questions, is the same thing, right? What type of impact do you want to have, right? And then from there, what type of problem do you want to solve? And then from there, what type of experiment or research questions can help you solve that problem? I think that's kind of a similar mindset. It's more of a stronger emphasis in the workplace with the teams I have been working with. So that's very important. And the next one is like two-way door. What exactly does two-way door mean, right? The two-way door, when they say two-way door, is the comparison with one-way door. This is actually a way of saying calculating risk, right? We have a lot of decisions need to make, whether it's business or personal life, right? And some of them is like you can change them later, and some of them it's very hard to change once that decision is made, right? So the risk level is different in terms of what if you did it wrong, right? So that's why if you think about a lot of the decision-making process, the value company value that those type of two-way door decision. You understand what the risk behind you, I mean in front of you, and also you understand, do you have other options if it doesn't work, right? And that's a way to calculate the risk. I think a lot of those terms are similar that you will learn in the future. It kind of actually helps me or helps you frame how do you think about problems, how you approach problems, how you describe problems, and how you convince other people. Because as you're thinking across those lines, it will help people to construct what is the kind of the content behind this decision, right? So that's that. And next thing I do want to talk about is the MBR, the monthly business review type of thing, right? This is a type of, I mean, different company may have different type of structure. It's like, this is the way that you bring the content or the work you do or the business is doing to surface to upper level in terms of your manager or the manager above your manager. When I was just started. I wasn't actually even involved in the MBR process. You know, maybe I was too bottom of the line of the workflows. I wasn't actually giving input or impact. But once I started getting involved, you actually get to learn a lot about how people make decisions. I mean, the senior leadership, right? How to make the decisions, how they share their concerns, how they discuss other alternatives. I want to bring this up because I want to give audience, I mean, everyone, think about like what we do when we're a student, right? We meet with our professor or the team weekly, monthly basis to update those things. I think one of the emphasis I was doing is about what I have been doing. You know, all those work, you know, I did recruit 2 people, you know, finish testing this, doing data analysis is what we do, right? I think that's one of the very important thing that puts me to think is, what does the work that you do right now lead to the results you want? Right? Sometimes yes, the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is no, right? And actually, it takes very important step to actually look at what we do right now to see, to actually gauge, is this actually going to lead me to the results I want? And I think it's very important because it is important to know that you're heading to the right direction, right? So that's that. So I've been talking 12 minutes. Okay, time really flies. Any questions so far? Do you want to pause and ask some questions? Please let me know. Okay. If not, we'll always have opportunity at the very end of the presentation. We can always talk. Yeah. And I guess someone is still on mute. If you're on mute, please, unless you have a question, because right now I cannot very hear clearly what the question is if someone is talking. No worries. Let's move on.
Sorry.
Yes, please.
We have an extra question. So you said
Yes.
like you don't have your tape desk, right?
Yes, I don't have a desk. Yes.
I mean it's like a really minor question, but like
Yeah.
do you have your like designated like space or office to work instead?
If you want, yes, you can. Yeah, there's no issue like you get a dedicated space. Yeah, it wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, you can definitely
like,
get a. Yeah, you can definitely get a seat, a designated office space that you can, you know, leave your stuff there and work from there. It's not a problem. Yeah, yeah. It's just more of a, in this COVID scenario, even though you have a desk, you don't really come to a desk, if that makes sense.
Okay. And like I know like there are a lot of open spaces in the Amazon. Is it true?
When you say open spaces, do you mean positions or you mean office?
No. I mean they're like literally just an area to like work or like chilling.
There are plenty of space, I would say, especially this time in office. There's not a lot of people in the office, so in terms of space wise, there are plenty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. I was just curious.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's all about curiosity here, right? Like there's nothing, I say, life critical discuss. It's more about what's a life there looks like, I guess. Any more questions? Okay, I'll go to the next one. I think it's more of a some thinking when I was a student, and then after working for a while, some thinking points that I want to share with everyone. Take if you think it's valuable, just ignore it if you think that doesn't make sense, right? It's really my personal experience or opinion from that perspective. When I was actually a PhD student, I read either a book or attend a conference. Someone said something. It's like when you are a master student or PhD student, the world actually don't treat you as a student, like a bachelor student. They treat you as a professional. Right? A professional in your domain because you are seeking additional education, right? As a master or PhD. I think that was actually very important, a mindset for me, that changes a lot of the thinking. Because when you are a student, right, you're always in the position of, okay, I want to learn something. I want to, okay, how to say, I'm not ready for this. I mean, not good for this. I'm not expert or whatever, right? But if you kind of position yourself as a professional, those thinkings change, right? So if you're a professional, you have professional opinion, right? These opinions are what people value, which is also what your contribution will be. So my recommendations really, with my personal experience, really try to position yourself as a professional, right? Don't think about you're a student. You're no longer a student, right? If you're a student, you're still in a bachelor. You're trying to seek internship, right? If you are seeking master's and PhD degree, you already have a much deeper domain knowledge than a lot of other people's in the field. So treat yourself as a professional, because that leads to the next keywords I want to share, right? Is sometimes we say, when was, I worked for my advisor, right? Dr. Sean Gallagher. And what about, when you think about work for, right? So really, you kind of lack the sense of ownership, right? You're a student, right? You're trying to learn, you work for someone. But if you position yourself as a professional, really the relationship between you and your advisor really is working together to achieve a goal, right? So I really kind of encourage people to start thinking that you're working with someone, right? Yes, you're learning, but that's discussion, not just you, right? It's a bi-directional communication, because learn feels like more of a passive, right? You learn from someone. So I really want to share that kind of thinking. I think that's very important to change the mindset, to think yourself as a professional, and the relationship you have with others. It's more of a professional relationship, right? Discussion, working with, because that really helps to frame how you need to interact with other people, even in the later interview process, with the hiring managers and all that. So I want to share that. And next one I want to share is, a lot of times we do right? Like it's a teamwork that's important, right? We want to acknowledge other people's contribution and then not ignore the credits they bring to the table for the team to success. But at the same time, we also have to think very hard. What is my role, or what is your role in this, right? What is my contribution? Right? What do I own in this process? Is it me really making these things happen, or it is someone else, right? Because when you think about more along the I line, I think you get more sense of ownership and what is responsibility needs to have. This is also, I'll talk a little bit more in an interview process or the later on, right? Because when you're talking to other people, because people want to understand you, right? Not your team. Right? Because they want to work with you, right? They can only hire one person at a time, not the whole team at a time, I guess. So think twice about your experience and how you contribute to the team is very important. And later on, share that experience with other people, right? Especially in the early career phase, if that makes sense. The next one I don't want to discuss is, especially when you are kind of early in the career, you kind of sense I use early career professional instead of a graduate student. So think about yourself as an early career professional that way. So reach out to the people in the field, whether they're in the industry, whether they're a professor, whether they're someone next to you. Someone has a question? Okay. So just kind of try to reach out to people, and if you want to know more about the domain, you want to know more about what they do, just reach out, like connect with them through LinkedIn or other channels you have introduced by someone else. You'll be surprised how supportive the community is in terms of giving you guidance or just share knowledge, just purely just talk to you. You'll be 100% surprised because I was in the same situation. I was very hesitant to talk to anyone, even attend conferences, HFES or something similar, right? The very first few conferences I go there are really kind of focusing more on the, just listening to sessions, learn the knowledge. But you will realize very soon that it is the people behind it that's very important, right? Like you understand what they do, what their passion is, and see what they do, and you may be very interested, maybe not, but I think that process is very valuable, and I highly encourage people to reach out. In terms of how, I can just you like, it's very easy, right? You saw someone on LinkedIn and you want to connect, just send them a message, and they don't even want to give you a talk. Have a talk, you just say, hey, can we have 30 minutes together? And I want to learn from you what you do. And I'm an early career professional. I would love to seek your insights, right, on something, whatever. And with my experience, most of the people are very supportive, and they're very willing to share some time with you. I think that's very important, especially in early career, because that building that network is very essential to land a start of your career somewhere that you like or you are passionate about, right? And the last one, I think it's critical at the same time it's hard because this could be a lifetime task, right? Where is your passion? Right? It's a really big question or really big thing we explore ourselves throughout life. Ooh, lights of my room somehow. Hold on, let me open up my lights. Yeah, sorry about that. Seems like a motion detection thing. But anyway, so in terms of passion, I think that's very important, because when you really tell someone or like where your passion is, it really helps people to understand what is best for you, or what is interesting things that you're interested in, right? Because it helps connect the dots, it connects opportunities, and find people like-minded as well, right? So try to find something that you're really passionate about as a professional, and share that by saying it when you introduce to someone, right? When you talk to someone, hey, you describe yourself, right? Introduce yourself, and then you say, I'm passionate about this. This is where my passion is. I think that's very helpful. Also kind of push us to learn more from us, learn more about ourselves, right? I think that's also important. Hopefully we're on track. So next one, I will briefly talk about how the Amazon interview process looks like, so you get some sense of it. And if you would want to learn more, I'm more than happy to have an individual talk or another talk later on to give you more in-depth understanding. So first, I want to say Amazon uses LinkedIn extensively. Extensively means like recruiter literally just go there and search for keywords and find a candidate. So please update your LinkedIn. It's very important. This is how I find my first job, first role at Amazon as well. So I appreciate LinkedIn as a platform to connect the professionals, and I highly encourage you to be active using LinkedIn. And second is kind of the general process. Normally they will have a phone interview, which the HR will give you a call. The first one is really just kind of verify some basic information. With my understanding is, okay, you said you'll graduate this December. Is it still true? Is it still planning to graduate December, or plan changed? For example, are you okay to relocate? Right? Maybe you are in the East Coast. Are you willing to move to West Coast? Something like that. So really more verify information once they identify you as a potential match. Okay? And then if everything is okay, just seems like a reasonable person, right? Talking okay, not like crazy, then you'll move to the next round, which is sometimes that they call tech interview. Normally it's going to be either the hiring manager or one of the team member in the bigger team that will give you an hour of interview, maybe half an hour interview, more around the technical side of things that's required for the job. So this part is highly dependent on the team or the manager, what they want to ask, what they want to know. Right? It could be anything. Depends on the role. So that's really depends on the manager. And the next one, if you pass this one, the next one, which is the final round, this is a standard interview process across Amazon. It doesn't matter which team you are in. Internally, we call it a loop, means you will normally get assigned 4 to 6 people. Each person will have an hour with you. And those 5 or 4 to 6 individual interview will happen within a day or two. You will get 1 hour, solid 1 hour with each one of them. And in this 1 hour, they will cover the leadership principle, which you can search, Amazon leadership principle. There are, I guess, 14 or 12. They will basically ask questions around those topics. Each interviewer will get assigned to like maybe 2 or 3 different leadership principles, and they will ask questions along those lines. Some examples like ownership, right, and customer obsession, dive deep, invent and simplify. What they trying to understand is, with your experience, right, past experience, how you demonstrate those items, right? How do you demonstrate ownership? How you demonstrate how you approach customer obsession? They recommend this, I think it's a STAR format when you start describing your experience. I think STAR starts with situation, task, action, STAR, and results, right? You follow that kind of scheme, and then you talk about how you demonstrate your ownership. One thing it kind of really reminds me around that is actually someone asked me when I was in HFES a few weeks ago, a student. It's like, I'm not a manager, I'm not a leader. How do I have leadership? Right? How do I have leadership? That actually, I never think about that. Actually, if you think about it, leadership doesn't mean you have to be a leader, right? Any projects that you do, any type of decisions you make, you are your own leader or project manager from that perspective, right? And so it doesn't really have to be a manager to have leadership principle. That's very important to be aware, right? And also people ask me, so what is important, right? What do I need to demonstrate? So I'm kind of asking them back, like, so if you're working in an environment with someone, right, and you see, oh, this person is great, this person is fantastic, what are the keywords you want to describe that person, right? And those are the ones that you appreciate and that probably everyone else is appreciate as well. For example, I heard a lot of people saying like ownership, right? People, they hold the responsibility, they deliver results, right? A lot of those things. So kind of think about that as well as what is important. How do you want to describe it, right? And I want to leave more time for discussion, but fundamentally, when you think about the interview process, right, it's really about you, like you as a person. Like, what do you do when you face certain challenges or in a certain situation, right? How you deal with it? What's your approach? What's your mindset? Where's your passion? Right? Is it really about you? And a lot of times the skills and knowledges are not as critical because we understand they all can be learned. So just keep that in mind. That's very, very important to show you as a person. One tip I share with everyone that talk to me is when you use the STAR methodology to describe the whole thing, right? At the very end, I'll recommend to have 1 sentences to say, okay, the main takeaway is I did this to make this impact, right? Because you're trying to do a favor to the interviewer in terms of, because they need to write down notes, right? Okay, what was your story? what was the achievement you have made, and by doing that as a final takeaway, you're actually helping them to make better notes, which is in return helping yourself. Right? So that's that. And so after the interview, so all the interviewer, the 4 to 6 people, they will come back. They will have a meeting. They will have a 30 minutes meeting. Before the meeting, they will enter their own interview feedback to the system, whether they are inclined for hire or not inclined for hire. They will list out all the reasons, and in the meeting they will discuss those risk points. And then at the end of the day, they will make a decision to say, hey, we're gonna hire this person, or maybe we're not hiring this person, but we can recommend this person to another team, something like that. So yeah, that's kind of the general interview process. And now I'm at 35 minutes. I want to give the most of the time to the floor so people can ask me questions about anything, because I don't know what you're interested in. So let me jump into the Q&A. So before we start the Q&A, I do want to say there's no stupid questions for sure. Anything can be asked, but I also want to say there's no stupid answer. So don't hold me liable for the stupid things I said. So okay, thank you. Please, questions.
All right, thank you. So please, if you have a question to Dr. Huangfu.
Yeah.
Oh, I think there's a question in the chat. How is the work-life balance at Amazon?
Okay, great question. Work-life balance. I have, like a little bit more. I've been working in Amazon for 3 different teams, so I do have some sense of different teams. First, I want to say it's very team dependent in terms of workload or what the expectation. And second is, with my personal experience, I would say there are peaks and valleys, if that makes sense. So there are certain periods of time it's very demanding because you want to, for example, collecting data or present something that you will be long working hours. But there are also times that it's not that critical, so you actually can take more of a relaxed, we say, working style. So I would say overall, I think it's pretty good. There's no one expecting you to work during the weekends, no one expecting you to respond after the office hours. You control your own, schedule most of the time, except for meetings. So I would say, with my experience, I'm very positive about the work-life balance. Yeah, but I mean, there are times I'm working like 14 hours a day. That happens, but it's not always. It's not like that. Yeah. Hope that answers.
And I do also have a question. So,
yeah, please.
So I understand that details about your current job is confidential, but since you are also from a background, I know you do your graduate research in ergonomics.
Yes.
So I'm indeed interested in how well do you find your graduate research experience being translated to whatever you are doing with Amazon. So how do you find that transition, or how useful do you find them to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, my master or PhD is very relevant to what I'm doing right now. Very relevant, not in terms of the working content, but in terms of the methodology, if that makes sense, right? So, for example, with my PhD, I did a lot of human subject study, right? Human motion study, biomechanical study, right? All those technologies that we use, the methodology we use, how do we answer questions with the research? Those fundamentals are very relevant to what I'm doing right now, and so that's the first part. In terms of transition between a research condition at the university to industry condition, I think the most fundamental thing is, if you think about you doing a research or answer a certain question, right? You're under a certain time frame, right? For example, a grant from NIH maybe is 2 years, right? But in industry, the time has value, right? So it's very limited time for you to generate results. So you really have to look into your research design or study design. What is important? What is not important? What can you deliver in 2 weeks? What can you deliver in a month? in that manner. So the time demand is different, right? So in other words, you may sacrifice some accuracy for results, right? Maybe that's good enough, 80%, right? So I think that's kind of the differences between that. I hope that answers the question from the two angles.
Sure, thank you. And then we also have another question in the chat, which is,
Sure.
did you always want to go into industry versus academia, and how did you make that decision?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. To be honest, when I just graduated, right, like a PhD, I haven't made a decision to say, hey, solid, I'm going to industry, or solid, I'm going to academia. I wasn't sure. That's the honest answer. What is sure is I still want to do the things I want, like the space I'm in, whether that's in industrial setting or in academia setting. I think that will sometimes leads to, I would say, opportunities or maybe luck a lot of times. So I was doing my postdoc with my professor at that time, and this job opportunity pops up in LinkedIn. I saw it. I said, oh, this is actually a good match with my experience and expertise. And I contact with the person and send my resume. And then we had the talk, and then this path kind of take off, right? So it is not by choice, but it is my choice, right? Hope that makes sense. So I'll say, I know a lot of people probably in a similar situation, but I would say, keep open-minded, right? Like if there are opportunities out there, reach out, and you never know, right? Which one will open the door that you feel most fortunate about, I guess.
That made sense. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and then we do have another question. It's more related to your current research scientist role. So were you assigned a research topic for most of the times, or do you have the right or option to choose whatever you want to investigate on?
A great question. Wow, this audience is fantastic. Asking the great questions. This is okay. Let me start with something. So think about our field, right? Human factors economics. We are in a very specific domain. So when you are going to the industry, not everyone has that background knowledge. So a lot of times they really treat you as expert in this domain to give recommendations. So they will probably have a general idea what they want to do, or what the company want to do, or the business want to do, but how to do it, what exactly are the steps, coming down to person like me to define it. And sometimes have to even define the question. What is the right research question to answer? Maybe that's the first question you need to figure it out, right? So I would say a lot of times it's up to people like me to really define, and then you propose to either your manager or the team to persuade them to join your journey, and then basically take steps to take actions on those research processes, right? Whether that's study, design, or recruit people and start doing things. Yeah, if that makes sense. So it's really, I would say it's really up to people like me. Yeah, I would say I have a lot of influence on what exactly, how we are actually doing it. Hope that answers the question.
Cool. And then one more question. Another question is one of our audience, Ray. She said he worked for Boeing up in Everett, and it's really cool to see human factor people working at Amazon. And maybe his question is, do you see kind of any crossover between aviation human factors and kind of what general human factors at Amazon?
I would say there's always opportunities, but I would say it's also very challenging between companies, because they have different interests in terms of their business, right? So actually, I'm talking to Boeing people a lot. Actually, we have there's the Ergo team. I know them pretty well as well. So we actually do discuss, right? Whether that's through a conference or actually through other meetings. I think actually Amazon and Boeing may have like NDA type of thing in place that can discuss more detailed business level. Yeah. So I would say, if you're in the area, if you want to learn more what I do, I'd love to learn more what you do. We can set up time and meet in person or remotely. Be fantastic. Yeah.
Well, sounds great. Thank you. Yeah, we're having pretty bad weather here in Seattle. It's like 7 days of rain.
Yes, that's the start of this season, yeah, I guess, yeah.
Oh yeah, honestly. But yeah, thanks Sun for taking the time to talk despite the despite the the weather.
Yeah, please, yeah, let's talk.
Excellent. And then one more question. Was family and location a constraint during your job search, and how did you handle the aspect?
I would say, I mean, I don't know other companies, but Amazon is willing to relocate anyone that is willing to. The location of your current location is not a constraint. It's not a limitation at all. And actually, they will probably offer you different office location that you can choose from to say, hey, I want to work in this area. Because a lot of teams are offering that remote condition, but there are definitely teams that require you to be in their area. As long as you're willing to relocate, it's not a problem. Yeah. Yeah, hope that answers the question.
Thank you. And then another question. Do you have a supervisor, and are you supposed to respond quickly to anyone's request, even during off-work hours?
Okay, good question. I definitely have a supervisor. I have a manager that I'm reporting to, right? That's everyone has a manager within Amazon. In terms of like out of office hour message response, no one expects you to respond a message out of office time. And some people even say specifically in the email, like, my working hour may be different from your working hour. Please don't feel, obligated to respond a message if you are not in the same working zone or time zone, right? So that's not a problem. I normally don't respond any messages. I will normally respond the second day in the morning. Yeah, so don't worry about that. I'm placing Amazon as far as I know. Yeah.
And then one more request. So since we are all from the human factor and ergonomics side, maybe can you talk a little bit more about the topic of your graduate research or your dissertation?
Yeah, sure. I can definitely discuss some more about my research focus when I was still a student. So I was at Auburn University in the biomechanics lab. My job is more focusing on how to understand exposure to human body and how we correlate that to health outcome in terms of occupational injury. So really more in the physical ergonomics area. I do a lot of biomechanical modeling, understanding internal force, joint force, for example, low back, and how can we develop models to evaluate risk level based on those exposure. For example, how many times they're lifting, what type of box they're doing, how can we estimate the risk of injury from that. So part of my work is also we developing risk assessment tools. For example, LIFFT is actually widely used right now in industry. I was one of the developers in the early days. I'm still in contact with the authors and making revisions and updates to it. So yeah, with that said, my work is more in the occupational injury prevention side with physical ergo. But I also, after I entered Amazon, I do get exposed to different type of topics, not beyond, occupational injury and occupational safety. That is very interesting as well. Hope that quick overview makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you. I was curious, like, more exactly that you were able to. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess if we have more time, we can definitely talk more in detail. But please reach out to me. We can set a call. Discuss. Not a problem at all. Yeah, please do.
Cool. Is there any other question that audiences want to ask?
Please, I'm here. So anything you want to know about me personally, about the job Amazon, about Seattle area, yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Well, I do have one more question. So it is related to Amazon. So how do you think Amazon would be a good I would say like a good company to work for like a human factor experts or ergonomic experts? And then how do you see the opportunity growing, for like human factor and ergonomic experts or professionals with Amazon?
I think, I mean, the quick answer is yes. I think Amazon is actually a great place for professionals in this field. It's well, I mean, there are a few reasons, right? One is actually, if you think about it, Amazon is very big. They have a lot of different, I would say, business lines, right? And you can actually move between teams internally pretty easily. So that factor itself is a big advantage, right? Because you can actually see a lot of different products as far as I'm very interested in, right? So that's the first reason. The second reason is, with my experience, you really do have a lot of room to showcase your expertise and really impact the business line from that perspective. And with Amazon scale, the impact is huge, even with small type of influence, right? So that's kind of the second reason. And third reason is actually, it's more of an Amazon, fulfillment network I'm working in. It's like, we have so many different buildings on so many different things that all across the United States and across the globe, right? If you're how to say, interested in traveling to different places and loving to know those things, and this is like endless opportunities for you to travel. I know, like, people travel to, I have opportunities within 3 years. I have the opportunity to travel to all over the places if I want, right? You can travel to Japan, you can travel to Italy, you can travel to England, you can go to Boston, you can go to Austin, you can go to Florida, right? So that's the third reason. Like, you really have that big scope of like a big company to really do things at a large scale. That helps you. I guess that's and the fourth reason, right? Really is the talent around you, right? Like, because you're working with the team, I think the talent around you really makes a difference. And I know a lot of different human factors professionals working in different teams, right? There are device team, there are robotics team, there are advertising. A lot of different teams has human factors professionals working there that I know of, and I think it's great. Yeah. Hopefully that helps.
Great. That's really good. I don't. Okay. Yeah, we just got one more question. So, in such a big company, do you feel it is hard to implement your own ideas?
Great question. Quick question. Yes, it is hard. Okay? It is hard. But also, I want to say, if it is easy, the value probably is not that big, if that makes sense, right? It is always hard to implement something that has impact, right? Because there's already an existing system there, right? There's already people buying into the current flow. And it is your job or my job to show evidence and to really say the influence and get alignment from other stakeholders, get buy-in, right, to implement. It is always hard, right? But I think that's a matter of the expertise you can provide and contribute to the team to make the right decision, right? And also, a lot of times you have to understand there are constraints, right? There's ideal state, there's also a realistic state. So understand those also helps you to manage what is possible to change at a certain time frame, right? So yeah, the question is hard, but there's still value around that.
Thanks. And then another question is, what is the major difference between doing a postdoc position within industry or like versus within a university?
I think the biggest difference is, I mean, I have limited experience, right? Because I haven't done a postdoc with the industry, but for example, my team is actually do have postdoc positions. One thing I really notice is, if you think about academia, right? It's really publication is one of your outcomes, right? Doing research, publish. But in business, publication wasn't the primary focus, or is not the primary focus, put it that way. So yes, doing postdoc in a company, you can still publish, but you have to navigate through the type of confidential information that the company don't want to release, right? But in a university setting, those are normally not in the conversation, right? Because the university is doing everything to publish. So I would say it will take more effort to figuring out what is publishable, what is not. But I do want to say the benefit of industry problem is, first, you're solving a really practical problem, right? It's real, it's right there. And second, the speed or turnover time is much faster than how to say academia, right? So for example, if you're doing a study for 6 months, here at Amazon, maybe you're doing 3 weeks or 4 weeks, that's it, right? You're recruiting subjects, you're doing tests, and you're writing the technical report within a month, done, right? So the turnover is quite different. The pace is quite different. So there are pros and cons. And if you, at the end of the day, right, if you really want to go to industry, then doing industry postdoc is actually going to lead you to job opportunity potentially, right? Because you get to know the person, the team, and you may get a return offer. But if you really want to do a professor, then I actually would recommend you go to academia path. You can publish more and build connections within that community, right? Because it's different, even though there are different communities around what connections are more valuable for your next move in your professional development. Hopefully that helps.
Great. That's the last question we have in the chat. Is there any other questions before? Oh,
yeah, I've got a question. So you talked a little bit earlier about human factors specifically at Amazon, but I'm curious, a lot of professionals I've talked to have said that human factors is sometimes one of like the first jobs to go. It's considered to be like a nice to have for a lot of companies. And I'm wondering if you can speak to that philosophy at Amazon and if they value it highly compared to some other companies.
That's a great question. So first, I don't know all the teams that doing with human factors. I may not be able to represent Amazon from that perspective, but I can say with my limited experience from that, and to a certain extent, the statement is right, because when you think about a design or everything else, we don't own the design as a human factor professional, right? It's not us designing the thing and manufacturing or mechanically and all that. We are a supporting role, right? And a lot of times it's up to us to show the importance of our work, right? Because our work does drive, how to say, product design criteria. Because at the end of the day, especially human factors, we're facing the customer directly or facing the users directly. And those input are critical for a product to be successful. So the question is, the answer is yes, we are a supporting role, but at the same time, it's really up to us to show the impact of our research results. And a lot of time it's to earn trust as well, right? Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, it is. Thank you very much.
I think we still have like 2 more minutes for the time that we reserved, but I guess we have a lot of good questions. And then we can always share your LinkedIn or your contact with our members if they want to have like a future conversation with you.
Please do. Please connect me with using LinkedIn. Just use my name, Huangfu. Just you can search for me and then you connect. And I'd love to talk every single one of you if you are interested in learning some more about me or anything else that I can be a help with. Because I'm always in a situation that I think is very important for me or people like me in the industry to really talk to the professionals or the professional in the school, like, because this is how, put it the other way, I wish I could talk to more people when I was a master PhD student, because that really helps me to get a context what's out there and what is good and bad and what should I prepare for and what is important, what is not important, right? So please reach out. I'm more than happy to contribute if I can.
Sure, definitely. I think then we can call it the end of the meeting, and then I would share your contact with our members at Purdue, so that if they want to discuss more, they can reach out to you. And then thank you so
Definitely.
much for your time.
Yeah,
And,
thank you
it's a great
for
talk.
thank you for the team inviting me. I appreciate the opportunity to share my 2 cents. I hope that's the value of your time. I appreciate your participation. And thanks again.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think we have very good conversations with all those questions. So, yep, definitely.
Good,
And then,
perfect.
yep, and then no problem. And then thank you everyone for participating and supporting.
Okay, I'll talk to you later, I guess.
Yep,
See you,
yep.
everyone.
All right, thank you for everyone.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
good day.
Thank you.